The grocery store was quiet, one of those mid-morning lulls between the office rush and the after-school crowd. I stood in line clutching a carton of almond milk, a frozen lasagna, and a bottle of arthritis cream. Glamorous, I know. The young cashier smiled politely, scanning my items like it was just another Tuesday. Then she paused. Her brows drew together, her mouth slightly parted. I assumed she recognized me from the local news. We'd recently gotten some press for the women's shelter I ran, but instead she said, "Sorry, this is probably weird, but aren't you Michael Hartman's mom?" The name stopped the air in my lungs. I blinked at her, unsure whether to nod or run. I thought you passed away. Like, when he was a kid. At least that's what his dad always said. I didn't say anything at first, just stared at her, my fingers still hovering over the card reader. I could feel the line forming behind me, but the world had narrowed into that sentence. Passed away. Gone. Dead. I let out a soft breath and tried to smile. Nope. Very much alive. Though I'll admit, some days I wished I wasn't. She looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's fine," I cut in. "Really. Not your fault." But it wasn't fine. And it wasn't the first time. I walked out of the store, heart pounding in my ears like I'd just run a marathon. The parking lot looked the same as always. Parents loading groceries into trunks, a kid chasing a cart. But something inside me had shifted. For 26 years, I'd thought he just didn't care. No calls, no birthdays, no letters. I blamed myself. Thought maybe I'd been a bad mother. That maybe Richard had been right when he said I was too emotional, too unstable, too much. I'd spent years trying to rationalize my son's silence. And now, in the frozen foods aisle of all places, I found out he thought I was dead. He didn't abandon me. He was lied to. My legs gave out before I made it to the car. I sat down on the pavement beside the bumper, groceries forgotten, tears dripping down into the dirt-stained concrete. A little boy in the next row pointed at me. "Mom, that lady's crying." His mother glanced, frowned, and nudged him away like I was something fragile. Contaminated. I wanted to scream, not because I was sad, but because the story I'd told myself for decades had just collapsed under its own weight. I wasn't hated, I was erased. And Richard, my ex-husband, my son's father, had buried me alive. I made it home, but barely. I didn't even put the groceries away. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the wall. How many people had heard that lie? How many birthdays did Michael spend mourning a mother who was still buying store-brand lasagna and clipping coupons? And what kind of man tells his child that their mother is dead, not out of grief, but out of spite? I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. Letters, over 100 of them, some with tear stains, others with desperate promises. "I still love you. Please write back. I'm so proud of you. I hope you're safe." I mailed one every month for the first 5 years. Never stopped believing one day he'd write back. Now I knew he never even saw them. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. I almost let it go. It was Christmas Eve, and I was halfway through wrapping care packages for the women in the shelter. My back ached. My fingers were stiff. My heart, well, it wasn't in the holiday spirit. Unknown number. For a second, I thought maybe one of our donors was calling, or the nurse from the clinic down the block. But something, I can't explain it. Something in my chest whispered, "Pick up." I swiped the screen and held the phone to my ear. Silence. Then, "Mom?" My knees buckled. I gripped the edge of the counter like the air had turned sideways. I hadn't heard that voice in 26 years, but I knew it, like a song you never forget. I'm sorry," he said. His voice cracked like a boy's, even though I knew he was a grown man now. "Dad told me you left, that you just didn't want to be a mom anymore. But I found out that wasn't true." My throat tightened. I didn't trust myself to speak. "I was angry for a long time," he continued, softer now. "But then I saw this article about Phoenix House. With your name, your photo. I couldn't believe it. I mean, you're alive. I thought I buried you." I sat down on the armrest of the couch, suddenly cold. He kept going. I want you to come. Just for dinner. Just Christmas. I have a daughter now. She asks about her grandma all the time. And I didn't know what to say. I still said nothing. She's 6. Her name's Ava. She looks a lot like you. Who told you? I asked. What? Who told you about the money? He went quiet. I didn't, he said quickly. I swear I didn't know. Not until after I called. Someone told you about the settlement, the lawsuit, that I finally got something after all those years. No, that's not why I... You found out I wasn't just alive. I was useful. Mum, that's not fair. I stood up. My whole body was shaking, but my voice was steady. Too steady. You waited 26 years to speak to me. 26. You never wrote, never called, never even tried to find me. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. And now, suddenly, when there's an inheritance rumour floating around, I get a phone call. On Christmas Eve, no less. That's quite the script. He let out a breath, but I couldn't tell if it was frustration or shame. I just want a chance to talk. You had a chance. I sent you letters for years. Did your father give you any of them? A pause. Then, no. He said you were dangerous. I closed my eyes. Dangerous. That was the word Richard used when the judge asked if I posed any harm. Emotionally volatile, he'd said. Unstable. I cried in court and they used it against me. A crying woman must be crazy. A calm man must be telling the truth. I didn't know, Michael repeated. I really didn't. And I'm sorry. I exhaled through my nose. Something hollow cracked inside me. Not forgiveness, but the ache of being asked for it. I'll think about it, I said. Please. I said I'll think about it. I hung up before he could say more. I didn't sleep that night. The idea of him having a daughter, my granddaughter, gnawed at me like hunger. Did she know I existed? Or had he kept me dead for her too? I imagined her sitting at some table the next day, ripping open presents while I watched snow fall outside a thrifted window. And I hated that I wanted to see her, because I didn't trust him, not even close. But I missed her, a girl I had never met. The next morning, I called a friend at the paper. Do me a favor, I asked. See if the Hartmans filed any new legal notices in the past few weeks. By noon, I had my answer. A trust, filed in my name, by Michael. He hadn't just wanted to see me. He'd wanted to claim me. So when I texted him later that day and said, sure, I'll come to dinner, I already knew. I wasn't going, but I was going to show up in a very different way. You want to know who I was? A woman in her 30s with no credit history, no job title, no emergency contact. My world revolved around packing lunchboxes and scrubbing the same linoleum until it shined like fake hope. I wasn't stupid, but I was naive. There's a difference. I thought staying quiet made me strong. I thought love meant endurance. And Richard made sure I kept confusing fear for stability. He'd say things like, no one else would put up with you, right before asking if I'd remembered to bleach the sink. Or, you're too emotional to raise a boy, when I'd tear up during parent-teacher conferences. It crept in slowly, that hollowing out. One missed friend call, one cancelled visit to my sister, one more layer of shame for asking about the credit card bill. But the real spiral? It started the day I stood up to him. He'd been yelling about something stupid, a shirt not ironed, I think. And I finally snapped, said, you don't get to treat me like this. His face went still, too still. Then he smiled, that tight lawyer smile. Funny you say that, he murmured, because I just talked to someone, about custody. What? He leaned against the doorframe. You yell, you cry, you fall apart every other week. That's not stable, not for Michael. I stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language, but he wasn't bluffing. In court, Richard wore the same charcoal suit he wore to church and funerals. I came in wearing a borrowed blouse and shoes half a size too tight. He told them I was erratic, that I screamed at our son, that I'd once left the stove on and forgot it for hours, that I emotionally manipulated him by crying too much. They asked me questions like, "Have you ever been prescribed medication for anxiety?" As if feeling overwhelmed made me unfit to hold my child's hand. I cried, and they wrote it down like a symptom. The judge, the one Richard golfed with every other weekend, didn't look at me once while reading the verdict. No visitation awarded at this time, custody granted solely to the father. I remember trying to breathe, but it felt like someone had unplugged the oxygen from the room. My knees buckled. "You're not his mother anymore," Richard said quietly as I passed him. "You're a burden." I slept in my car the first night, then the second. By the end of the week, I was parked behind the 24-hour laundromat, layering old jackets to keep warm. At church, I didn't pray. I just stood in the back and stared at the stained glass, wondering how something so broken could still look beautiful in sunlight. Spring came. I found work, part-time motel cleaning, cash under the table. The guests never looked at me. The manager didn't learn my name. But the bed came with a lock. And a roof. I scraped change from vending machines and lived off old muffins from after-service trays. I washed my clothes in the sink and cut my hair with scissors I found in a donation bin. But I never stopped writing letters. I sent one every single week. Even when I had nothing left but a tea bag string and a packet of mustard in my coat pocket, I scraped together stamps. "Hi, baby. I hope you're eating enough. I saw a red kite today. Remember how you used to chase them? I love you." I never stopped. I imagined him reading them before bed, maybe tucking them under his pillow, maybe showing his friends and saying, "That's my mom." I didn't know that Richard never gave him a single one. He told Michael I'd disappeared, that I chose to move on, that I'd found someone else and didn't want to be a mother anymore. He told everyone I'd been off, that I'd needed help, that I was better off away. For a while, I believed it myself. But the thing about hitting bottom, you find bedrock, and bedrock is solid. Years passed. I got a job at a diner, then a night school certificate. A kind woman named Miriam helped me enroll in a financial literacy program. She didn't pity me. She handed me a pen and said, "Start here." I did. I saved every dollar that didn't go to rent or ramen. I bought a second-hand laptop. I read library books on business, trauma recovery, real estate, non-profit structure. And one fall morning, in a tiny room above a used bookstore, Phoenix House was born. A home for discarded women. Women like me. We didn't start big, just 4 beds and 2 volunteers. But we had warmth, and soup, and stories. And then one day, a reporter stopped by. She said, "You've built something beautiful." I told her, I didn't build it despite being broken. I built it because of it. But even then, even with awards and funding and a team of survivors around me, part of me still wondered. Where was Michael? Did he remember me? Did he ever ask? Turns out he did, only after someone told him I had something he wanted. The holidays passed like a fog I didn't want to walk through. I didn't answer his texts. Didn't open the photos he sent of Ava in her Christmas pajamas, or "the table all set for you." He even left a voicemail, voice trembling, a little too rehearsed. "I was really hoping you'd come. She asked why you didn't. I didn't know what to say." I knew exactly what he said, so I waited, 2 weeks, just long enough for him to think I was either ignoring him forever or softening. Then I walked into his office. The receptionist wore a headset and bright red lipstick. She didn't look up from her monitor. "Hi, I'm here to see Michael Hartman," I said, slipping off my gloves. "Do you have an appointment?" "Nope, I'm his mother." That got her attention. She blinked, then flicked her gaze to the schedule on screen. "He's in a meeting right now, with a trust attorney. Something about an estate." I smiled, tight-lipped. "Oh, really? That's interesting. I'll wait." I took a seat in the lobby, right under the company mission statement, Hartman Financial, building wealth, protecting legacy. The irony almost made me laugh. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, the door opened. He stepped out laughing with a man in a grey suit. For a moment, he looked younger than I remembered. Relaxed, confident, the way men do when they believe they're untouchable. Until he saw me. The blood drained from his face. His smile vanished. He stopped walking. "Mum?" I stood. "You said you wanted to reconnect," I said calmly. "Turns out you just wanted a piece of something you thought belonged to you." "No," he stammered. "That's not... You've got it wrong." "Do I? I didn't know the lawyer was... I wasn't..." He looked around, like hoping someone would interrupt, but no one did. "You filed a trust in my name," I said, steady but low. His eyes twitched. "What?" I held up the document. Crisp, stamped, undeniable. "You filed a legal trust. With my name. 2 days before you called me." His mouth opened. I didn't give him room. "Before the apology, before the tears, before you told me you missed me. You were already filling out paperwork." He flinched like the words were physical. I didn't blink. "You invited me to Christmas dinner while preparing to claim an inheritance you hadn't earned." He swallowed hard. It's not what you think." "What I think." I laughed just once, sharp and humorless. "You didn't even ask if I wanted to be back in your life. You just assumed, like I was an unlocked vault waiting to be accessed." "Mom, please." I stepped back before he could finish. "Don't call me that like it means something." His face fell. "It does." "No," I said. "It used to. Now, it's just what you say when you want something." He tried again. "I didn't mean to hurt you. You thought I was dead," I cut in. "And when you found out I wasn't, you didn't reach for me. You reached for what I had." He looked down, guilty, but not surprised, and that told me everything I needed to know. "I came here to see if you'd admit it," I said. "You didn't." I turned slowly, so he couldn't say I stormed off or overreacted. So now I know. I walked out before he could find his next excuse. His voice followed me, weak and pleading. It wasn't like that, I swear. But it was. He didn't want me. He wanted access. To my name, my story, my money. And suddenly I felt... nothing. Not rage, not heartbreak, not even grief. Just this strange, profound clarity. He buried me when he was 8. Let someone else write my obituary. And now he wanted to cash in on the ghost. Outside, it had started to snow. Slow, feathery flakes drifting like secrets. I stood there for a long time, breathing in cold air and watching them melt on my coat sleeve. I used to think justice would feel like fireworks or a courtroom climax, but sometimes it's just a quiet door closing and knowing you're finally the one holding the key. It was raining the day she came. That soft, steady kind of rain that somehow feels personal. The kind that doesn't drench you, just lingers, like it's trying to soak into your bones. I was finishing paperwork in the back office of Phoenix House, my second cup of lukewarm tea untouched, when Nora knocked twice on the glass. "There's someone here to see you," she said quietly. "Walk in." Nora nodded. "She says she's not looking for shelter, says she needs you, and she used the name Richard." My pen stilled mid-stroke. "I'll see her," I said. I didn't ask why. Some names don't need repeating. She stood just inside the entryway, hugging herself like she'd collapse without the weight of her own arms. Her coat was soaked through, hair matted to her face, one boot untied. She looked like a ghost someone had forgotten to bury. When she saw me, her lips trembled before she spoke. "I'm not here to beg," she said. "I'm here to confess." She looked familiar. There was something in the slope of her shoulders, the thinness of her voice. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" She gave a dry, humorless laugh. "You will. My name is Sharon." And just like that, I knew. We sat in the small counseling room. The radiator ticked behind us like it had something to say. "I was with him for 15 years, she said. "Not at first. He didn't leave you right away. He lied to both of us. Said you were unwell, that you'd checked out, that Michael was confused and needed stability, that you couldn't give it to him." My hand stayed folded. My face didn't move. But inside, I was back in court, hearing those same phrases echo against paneled walls. "You believed him," I said. "I did." She didn't hesitate. Because I wanted to. She pulled a large, overstuffed folder from her bag. Yellowed tabs, handwritten notes. It looked like she'd been building it for years, like she was waiting for her moment. I brought proof, she said, not because I expect you to forgive me, but because this belongs to you. She laid the folder on the table. Inside, bank transfers, private emails, phone screenshots, scanned letters. Some were marked attorney-client privileged, which meant they weren't supposed to be seen, but Sharon had seen them all. He bribed the judge, she said quietly. He funneled money through a friend of the court's brother. That's how he won custody. I felt the breath leave my lungs. He also forged one of your evaluations. That therapist you were forced to see during the custody battle. She never wrote the report the court received. I picked up the page, a screenshot of a message from Richard. Use the sample template I gave you. We just need her to sound borderline, not psychotic, enough to scare the judge. I dropped the paper, not because I wanted to make a scene, but because I couldn't keep holding it. My hands just gave up. It slid off my palm and landed between us like a verdict neither of us could ignore. You watched him do this. Her jaw tightened. I didn't know. You watched, I said again, louder. For 15 years you knew what he'd done to me. I didn't know everything. You knew enough. My voice wasn't yelling, but it cut like glass. You knew he took my son, my name, my future. You knew. She flinched. You stayed. That word hung in the room like smoke, stuck in her hair, in her skin. She couldn't shake it off. Her lip trembled. I was young. He made me feel seen, special. I laughed. It wasn't cruel, just tired. So did he, right before he made me invisible. She swallowed hard. I thought he loved me. So did I. That silenced her, and for a long moment, I thought she might finally cry. She didn't. I didn't come here for redemption, she whispered. He left me too, just like he left you, just like he uses people. And now, I have a daughter. She asks me why he never calls, why he disappeared, why he only sends money on Christmas like that makes up for anything. I stared at her. Her shoulders curled in on themselves like she was trying to disappear, trying to be smaller than the guilt. I don't know what to tell her, she said, and that was the moment. Not the folder, not the evidence. This, her voice cracking under the weight of her own choices. My voice came back sharper than I meant it. Tell her the truth. She blinked like she didn't understand. Tell her he's not a father. He's a man who knows how to perform love long enough to get what he wants. She shook her head. She's 10. She still thinks he's a hero. Michael did too. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full. Of everything she didn't say to me, and everything I would never say back. I lied to myself, she said finally. I told myself what he did to you wasn't my fault, that it wasn't my place. It became your place when you kept the door shut while I screamed on the other side. She opened her mouth. I didn't let her speak. You didn't just stay with him, I said. You helped him erase me. Her voice cracked. You think I haven't paid for it? I stared at her. You think I care? She wiped her face with her sleeve. Her eyeliner had bled into her cheekbones. I want to fix what I helped break. You can't, I said, but you can help me burn what's left of him down. She nodded. That's why I'm here. She reached into her coat and slid a USB drive across the table. This has everything. Calls, screenshots, statements, even a few voicemails I saved without knowing why. You kept voicemails? Some of them were cruel, she said. At the time, I thought I deserved it. Now, I think you should hear them. Later that night, I played them. Richard's voice filled the room, calm and calculated. She'll lose her mind eventually. They all do, and when she does, I'll be the only sane one left. Another. I'll put her in a corner she can't crawl out of. She'll forget her own name before she remembers how to fight. And then, the one that chilled me most. Michael's young enough. I can mold him. He'll hate her without even knowing why. I sat there in the dark, hand over my mouth, listening to the sound of my own past collapse in reverse. It wasn't just betrayal. It was surgical. He hadn't just wanted to win. He wanted me forgotten. Sharon came back the next day. "I'll testify," she said before I could ask. "Whatever you need, I'll go public if I have to." Her daughter Lily came with her, 9 years old, big glasses, polite, the kind of kid who says, "Excuse me," when she sneezes. "She doesn't know much," Sharon whispered, "just that her mom made mistakes, but we're trying to do better now." Lily looked up at me. "Are you the lady with the shelter?" I smiled. "I am." "I think you're brave." I blinked fast and nodded. "Thanks, sweetheart." After they left, I locked the office door and sat on the floor. Not because I was broken, but because I was angry, in the clearest, cleanest way. For years, I'd carried shame like a second skin. Let it shape my silence. Let it tell me I wasn't good enough to fight back. But now I had a folder, a drive, a witness. I had truth, and I had nothing left to lose. By the time Sharon handed me that flash drive, I already knew Richard was a liar. But I hadn't realized he was a planner. He didn't just leave destruction behind him. He designed it, quietly, systematically, like it was part of a long game, only he knew the rules too. So I gave everything to my lawyer, Jill. Every file, every email, every screenshot Sharon had risked her neck to copy. Jill and I had worked together before, pro bono work for Phoenix House, and I trusted her. "What are we looking for?" she asked. "Anything with my name, anything that proves he used Michael to hide money." "Got it," she said, then added, "You should brace yourself." It took 4 days, 4 days of cross-referencing shell companies, overlapping timelines, and buried paper trails. Then Jill called. "You were right," she said. "He filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago. But what? He transferred 3 properties to your son's name 6 months before the bankruptcy was even processed. A house in Cape Cod, another in Oregon, and a vacation condo in Arizona. Plus a boat." I blinked. "A boat?" She sighed. Named final word, believe it or not. I almost laughed. Almost. "And Michael accepted these assets?" "Willingly. Signed documents. That makes him liable under asset concealment laws, especially since he tried to open a trust in your name during the same period." I felt my pulse slow into something heavier, denser. "So what do we do?" "We sue them. Both of them." The next morning, I walked into the courthouse in my best black coat and heels I hadn't worn in 5 years. Not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I wanted to feel taller. Jill filed the civil suit just after 9 a.m. By noon, we'd submitted a motion to freeze the accounts connected to all 3 properties and Richard's original holding company. At 3:17 p.m., I got a call from an unfamiliar number. A man cleared his throat. "This is David Monroe, representing Mr. Michael Hartman. I believe you've initiated proceedings." "I have." "Well, we'd like to avoid the mess of litigation if possible. My client is open to a private settlement." I leaned against the windowsill. "Your client tried to erase me for 26 years. I think mess is the least of our concerns. I'm sure we can come to something agreeable." "I already have," I said. "It's called court." The next morning, news broke. Local businessman and son accused of multi-state asset concealment in civil suit filed by former spouse. The article featured a photo of Michael in a suit, rushing to his car, face hidden behind sunglasses. Richard wasn't pictured. He never was. But I could imagine him watching the coverage from some Airbnb in Arizona, muttering about overreaction and emotional women. That same afternoon, Jill forwarded me a voice message left for the clerk's office. It was Richard. "This is all a mistake. She's mentally unstable. You people are letting a bitter ex-wife make a circus out of nothing." And then, calmly, almost bored, "She won't show up in court. She never finishes anything." I hit play again, and then I emailed it to the judge. Michael didn't call, but his wife did. "I know this probably means nothing to you," she said, voice trembling, "but I didn't know about any of it. He told me you'd vanished, that he had no mother." I stayed silent. "I have 2 daughters," she continued. This This affects their future. Please don't punish them for what he did. Her words were sharp, not cruel, but pointed, like guilt disguised as plea. I'm not trying to ruin anyone's life, I said, but I will not be erased again. Not by your husband, not by his father, not by anyone. She sniffled. I understand. And to her credit, she never called again. We got the court date 2 weeks later. Michael's lawyer requested an extension. We denied it. Jill pushed for public hearing. We want the story on the record, she said. We want them seen. I nodded. Let's make it loud. That weekend, I sat at my desk and stared at a photo of me and Michael, back when he was 4, holding a balloon in one hand and my face in the other. It had been buried in a box for years, but now it sat upright in a simple frame. He had my smile back then, my chin, my stubbornness. But somewhere along the way, Richard taught him to use those traits against me. Still, I didn't hate him. Not fully. Hate would mean I cared enough to carry it around every day. But what I felt now was emptier, like something had been scooped out and replaced with stone. A few days before the hearing, Jill called again. You should know, they've offered a much larger settlement. Triple what we asked. No admission of guilt. Just walk away. I smiled. No. Are you sure? Yes, I said. I'm not here for money. I'm here for truth. I wasn't planning to go. Honestly, I thought I'd burned that bridge so thoroughly that even the ashes were gone. But a few nights before the hearing, after all the documents were filed, subpoenas sent, and lawyers postured, I had this strange dream. Michael was 5 again. He was standing at the top of the attic stairs, holding a box of crayons and calling my name. Not Mom. Just my name, like he couldn't remember who I was supposed to be. I woke up before I could reach him, so the next day I got in the car and drove. No GPS. I still remembered every turn. It looked smaller than I remembered. The lawn was neater, brighter. Someone had painted the shutters yellow, which clashed with the brick, but I didn't mind. It was the kind of thing I never would have been allowed to do. There were toys in the yard, 2 little bikes, sidewalk chalk, a swing still swaying from an invisible push. I stood by the gate for a full minute, rehearsing what I'd say. A woman answered. She looked to be in her early 30s, barefoot, baby on her hip. Hi, I said, palms open. Sorry to bother you. I used to live here, a long time ago. She blinked. Oh, I know this sounds strange, but I was wondering, would you mind if I looked in the attic? Just for a few minutes. There might be something of mine still up there. She hesitated, then nodded. I think I've seen some old boxes. Didn't know who they belonged to. The stairs creaked like they remembered me. The attic was still half finished, insulation poking out in places, the one bare bulb hanging like a question mark in the dark. And then I saw them, 3 cardboard boxes, water-stained, caved in at the corners, but still there, not burned, not thrown out, just hidden. I knelt beside the first one and peeled it open. A stack of drawings spilled out, crayon suns, stick figures with triangle dresses. One that read in shaky block letters, "My mom is a hero." I laughed. Then I covered my mouth. In the second box, a faded wedding photo. I looked young, hopeful, slightly off-center, in a white dress I borrowed from my cousin. Richard stood beside me with that slick grin he always wore for cameras. Behind the photo was a cassette tape, labeled Michael, age 4, ABC song. My handwriting. I pressed the label to my chest. I didn't realize I was crying until the tears hit the box and smudged the ink. I sat down hard on the wooden floor, surrounded by paper and dust and ghosts. This house had witnessed the worst chapters of my life. The screaming, the silence, the day I left through the front door and wasn't allowed back in. I'd imagined everything here was destroyed, that Richard had burned my memories to make room for his new ones. But he didn't. He just hid them, which, in some ways, felt worse. He didn't need to burn me to the ground. He just boxed me up and shoved me in the attic. Like clutter. Like a secret. The woman called up the stairs. "Everything okay?" I cleared my throat. Yeah, thank you. I gathered a few things. The tape, a few drawings, a letter I didn't remember writing to myself. Before I left, I found something else. A small snow globe, cracked but intact. Inside, a mother and child under a plastic tree. It was chipped, barely visible through the dust. Michael used to shake it before bedtime, press it into my hands and whisper, "I hope we get snow like that this year." I took it, not because I needed it, but because it was the last piece of who we were, before Richard rewrote us both. Back in the car, I didn't drive right away. I sat there for a while, holding the snow globe in one hand and the cassette in the other, like I could balance past and present between my palms. And that's when it hit me. I didn't come here to find anything. I came to prove to myself that I'd left something behind, that I hadn't imagined it, that I existed, because for years they made me feel like I didn't. They told Michael I was gone, that I didn't want him, that I was the unstable one, the shame, the ghost that had to be kept hidden. But these boxes, these drawings and cracked snow globes, they told a different story. They proved I'd been real. That love had been real, and now I was real again. On the drive home, I stopped by the old diner where I used to bus tables after Richard threw me out. The waitress didn't recognize me. Why would she? But she poured the same watery coffee and asked if I wanted pie. I said yes. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to shrink into invisibility. I wasn't apologizing for being alive. I brought the tape to the shelter the next morning. We didn't have a cassette player, so Miriam from admin dug one out of her brother's garage. We played it after lunch, surrounded by folding chairs and women who understood what it meant to be forgotten. Michael's little voice crackled through the static. B, C, D, E. He missed a few letters, giggled, started over. Someone clapped at the end, and you could just faintly hear my voice. "You did it, baby. I'm so proud of you." I never planned to bring that tape to court, but now it was coming with me. The courtroom smelled like old wood and nerves. You know that scent? That mix of paper, sweat, and too many lives colliding in one place. That's what it smelled like when the judge picked up the decision. His voice was low but sharp, like each word had been polished. In the matter of fraudulent asset transfer and intentional concealment of funds, the court finds in favor of the plaintiff, punitive damages awarded in full. I didn't move, didn't exhale, didn't even blink. Michael sat 2 rows ahead, stiff in a tailored suit, hands clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. He never turned around. Richard didn't show. Of course he didn't. Cowards rarely do. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. I gave them nothing, just a nod. I went home, made tea, fed the shelter cat, and wrote one check after another. Phoenix House got every cent of the court award, minus the legal fees, and one other thing. A scholarship. For Lily, Sharon's daughter. I called it the Second Start Fund. Gave it in my name. Not as a gift, but a promise. Because we don't get to undo what's been done. But we can change what happens next. 3 weeks passed before he called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. His voice was quiet, raw. "I heard about the scholarship," he said. I didn't answer. I wanted to say thank you, not for me, for her. Still silence. Then he broke. "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't want to know, I think, because if I did, I'd have to admit I let it happen. I believed Dad. I believed you were gone. And when I found out you weren't, I didn't know how to undo it." "You buried me," I said. "You believed I was dead. And now you want to dig me up when it suits you. That's not fair," he choked. "I was a child. And now you're not." He didn't speak. "So make it right," I said. "Not with words, with actions." "I will. We'll see." I didn't forgive him. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't need to. Forgiveness isn't a door I owe anyone. It's a room I build when I'm ready. And right now, I like the view just fine from where I am. Sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet and the city has finally exhaled, I still write him letters, not because I want to reply, not because I miss him, but because there are words that deserve to exist, even if no one ever reads them. They're not like the letters I used to write. Back then, I filled them with small memories and big apologies. Remember your blue sneakers? You refused to wear anything else for a month. I hope you're eating enough. I'm sorry for everything. I love you, but these letters, now they sound more like this. You didn't kill me, you sharpened me. Every lie you told, every silence you fed me, it didn't erase me, it refined me. I became someone you never thought I could be. And now, you don't get to rewrite me back into your story like I was never gone. Sometimes, I pause after that line, because that's the part he won't understand. He thinks calling me now means we start from zero. That time can be rewound just because he's ready to press play. But I'm not a paused scene in his movie. I'm my own ending. I wrote one line last night that made my hand shake a little when I set the pen down. I wasn't dead, I was just done. Not disappeared, not defeated, just done letting someone else name me. I don't keep the letters in any special box, just a drawer, between mismatched socks and expired coupons. Because that's what they are now. Not sacred, not precious, just leftover pieces of a version of me that needed to speak. And now I'm quieter, but not softer.